What if I told you that Max Verstappen won a race? But that victory was erased hours later as if it had never existed. He dominated the Nürburgring, crossed the finish line first, did everything perfect on the track, and still ended up disqualified for a detail that no one saw coming. It wasn't an accident, it wasn't a penalty for fighting on the track, it wasn't even because of the car, it was something much quieter, much colder, and much more worrying. Because this is not about speed. It is a mistake that completely changes what it means to win in motorsports. Max Verstappen had done exactly what is expected of a driver of his caliber: dominate. It was not just any victory, it was a clear demonstration of total control in a completely different environment than Formula 1, adapting to a GT3 on one of the most demanding circuits in the world like the Nürburgring. From the beginning of the weekend, it was already clear that there was something special, that the rhythm was there, that the execution was going to make the difference. And so it was. On the track, no one could question it. He crossed the finish line first with the authority of someone who not only competes, but imposes conditions even outside his comfort zone. But this is where everything changes. Because while many celebrated that victory as another confirmation of Verstappen's absolute talent, in the background something was beginning to take shape that no one was seeing. And unlike what happens during the race where everything is visible, where every overtake, every mistake and every strategy is analyzed in real time, there is a silent, cold and completely decisive phase, the post-race technical verification. That's where it really decides whether a victory is valid or not. Hours after finishing the race, when everything seemed closed, when the result was already assumed, the blow came. The stewards, after analyzing the data collected by the official system, the so-called tire app, detected something that changed everything. Verstappen's car had used 7 sets of tires, when the regulations only allowed 6. A detail that at first glance may seem minor, but in motorsports it is absolutely critical. We are not talking about an ambiguous interpretation or a gray area of the regulation. It was a direct, clear, measurable violation. And most importantly, impossible for the commissioners to ignore. This is where the story takes a brutal turn. Because this was not a penalty for illegal performance, it was not a hidden aerodynamic advantage, it was not an unsportsmanlike maneuver, it was an operational error. A failure in management, in the internal control of the team, in an aspect that does not depend on the driver, but that ends up completely destroying its result. And this changes absolutely everything. Because Verstappen did win on the track. That is not in discussion. He was the fastest, the most consistent, the one who executed the race best. But in modern motorsport, that is no longer enough. Here you don't just compete against other drivers, you compete against the regulations, against the technical limits, against every detail that can invalidate hours of perfection in a matter of seconds. Victory then stopped being a question of performance and became a question of compliance. And in that game, Verstappen and his team failed. The hardest thing about all this is that there was no room for maneuver. There was no debate. There was no possible interpretation. The stewards simply applied the regulations, and the result was immediate: disqualification. The victory disappears and automatically goes to another team, in this case the Rowe Racing BMW. In a matter of hours, what was a dominant victory became one of the hardest blows a driver can receive. Winning, and it doesn't count. And this leaves us with an uncomfortable but inevitable reality. In today's motorsports, the fastest doesn't always win. Sometimes, the one who makes the fewest mistakes wins, even the ones that cannot be seen. Max Verstappen's disqualification doesn't just change the outcome of a race, it completely changes the narrative of the entire weekend. Because when you analyze in depth what happened, you realize that the pilot did not fail here. The system that was supposed to sustain that victory failed. And that opens up a much more complex, much more uncomfortable dimension for any high-level team. Because in endurance, in this type of competition, it is not enough to be fast. It is not enough to execute well on the track. Here everything is based on a millimeter structure where every decision counts, where every resource is limited, and where breaking that balance, even for a seemingly small detail, has devastating consequences. Using an extra set of tires is not just one more mistake. It is a direct breach of the regulations that affects competitive equality. Each team plans its race around that limit, builds its strategy knowing that it has an exact amount of resources. And when one of them exceeds it, even if there is no intention, the entire system breaks down. And this is where the real problem appears. These types of errors should not occur in structures of Verstappen Racing's level. Because we are not talking about an improvised team. From the beginning, this program at the Nürburgring was designed seriously, with planning, with a solid structure that even pointed to larger projects such as the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. Everything indicated that it was not a simple participation, but a real bet, organized and designed for the long term. So, how does a failure like this occur? The answer is uncomfortable, because even in the most prepared teams, the human factor and operational management continue to be the most vulnerable point. You can have the best driver in the world, you can have pace, you can execute a perfect race, but if in the pits, in the systems, in the internal control, there is a disconnection, everything falls apart. And this is what makes this case so shocking. Because Verstappen did everything right and still lost. This also exposes a reality that often goes unnoticed. In modern motorsports, invisible errors are the most dangerous. They don't generate drama on the track, there are no spectacular images, there is no wheel-to-wheel contact. But they have the power to erase entire results. And the hardest thing is that there is no way to compensate for it. There is no partial sanction, there is no time penalty, there is no negotiation. It's black or white. You comply or you don't comply. And if you don't comply, everything disappears. Furthermore, this type of situation directly impacts public perception. Because for the spectator, for those who watched the race, the winner was Verstappen. That image already exists, it has already been registered. But officially, it doesn't count. And there arises a brutal contradiction between what was seen and what really remained in the books. This not only affects the result, it affects the story, the driver's narrative, even how his performance is interpreted outside of Formula One. Because yes, he showed adaptation, he showed speed, he showed ability in a completely different environment, but the final headline is not that. Because when it's all over, when you lower the emotion, when you coldly analyze what happened at the Nürburgring, the conclusion is as hard as it is clear. Max Verstappen did the most difficult thing, but lost because of the simplest thing. He won in real conditions against rivals, against the circuit, against the extreme demands of the Nordschleife, but he did not win against the regulations. And in this sport, that's the only thing that really matters in the end. The official result no longer reflects what happened on the track. Verstappen's name disappears from first place, and that victory goes to another team. The Rowe Racing BMW inherits a victory that was not won by crossing the finish line first, but by complying with each rule to the millimeter. And here is the strongest blow of this entire story. Because this isn't just about a disqualification, it's about what it really means to compete today. Motorsport has evolved to a point where perfection is no longer just about driving at the limit. Perfection is now invisible. It's in the data, in the systems, in the decisions that no one sees. It is about not making a single mistake, not even in aspects that seem secondary. And when you fail there is no safety net. This case leaves a brutal lesson for any team, any driver, any category. You can dominate a race from start to finish and still lose everything hours later. Because winning is no longer just about being the fastest. It is being impeccable. And at the Nürburgring, Verstappen was one decision away, one detail away from being completely. But that little mistake was enough to erase an entire victory. And now there remains a question that will continue to resonate long after this weekend. Who was really the winner? The one who crossed the finish line first, or the one who never broke the rules? And in the end, what happened to Max Verstappen at the Nürburgring is not just another motorsport anecdote. It is a brutal reminder of what really defines this sport today. Because for a few hours, we all saw the same thing. A driver dominating, executing perfectly, crossing the finish line as a winner. That image is real, no one can erase it. But at the same time, it's also incomplete. Because in modern motorsports, the story doesn't end when the checkered flag falls. It ends when the regulations say it has ended. And that's where everything changed. The disqualification does not erase Verstappen's talent, it does not erase his adaptation, it does not erase the exhibition he gave on the track. But it does redefine the result. And that's the hardest thing to accept. You can do everything right in the eyes of the world, and still not be the official winner. This case leaves a lesson that goes far beyond a simple sanction. In today's motorsports, the difference between glory and failure is not always on the track. Many times it is in the details that no one sees. On an extra tire. In a poorly controlled decision. In a system that fails at the least expected moment. And that's what makes this sport so unforgiving. Because he doesn't forgive. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your level, it doesn't matter if you are the best in the world. If you break the rules, even for a small detail, the result disappears. And the Nürburgring left us precisely that, a victory that we all saw, but that officially never existed. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.